We need it. It's like oxygen. We all deserve food, sunlight, shelter, and comfort, and pleasure, and enjoyment.
Welcome to your Journey to Joy podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski, and I'm on a mission to help you find joy in the chaos of life. As a retired nurse, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and mom of 4 adult children, I know what it's like to feel the overwhelm of it all and wonder if and when the joy will show up again. And I've learned it's up to us to go find that joy. On this show, you will hear inspiring stories from those who have overcome all kinds of life challenges, tips on how to stay healthy and vibrant during the ups and downs of life, and simple ways on finding joy in your own life. Let's face it, life is messy, yet when we travel together on this journey, support and encourage each other along the way, that joy starts to show up again. I'm so excited to lead you on this journey of you to find the joyful life that you deserve. Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski. We talk about joy, we talk about journeying, we talk about all kinds of things, overcoming challenges. And today I have a guest with me who I'm just so excited to hear more about her story. A friend of mine referred me to her, and she said she's a great gal, and she created some donuts. And so I was curious. So without further ado, welcome Leigh Kellis to my podcast today. And I'm excited that we can have this conversation.
Thank you very much. I love talking about donuts. So we're right on track here.
Right. Well, it didn't start with the donuts. Let's start, as I do with most of my podcasts, kind of start with your story, share as much or as little as you'd like, about food, about your story, kind of what led you to today.
Love it. Easy. So I've noticed that my story is a lot of D words. It started with divorce and death and diet despair and dads, and it led to donuts. So I can summarize those 5 topics. I went through a divorce. I needed to get a life, as my mother told me, and move out of her attic with my 6-year-old daughter. And I was finding myself craving donuts and sweetness and comfort. And something clicked, and I said, I need to make donuts, eat them. And I came on a Maine potato donut recipe that just knocked my socks off. It was very delicious, and it hit all of the craving buttons, sweet and warm and cinnamony and sugary and comforting and forbidden, actually. And so that was a bit of a soothing salve on my divorce. And then my dad died, and I was finding a lot of diet despair as well, which I guess we can get into all that. But like I said, it led me to donuts for comfort. So that's where we are now, 5 shops later. Got about 120 employees, a lot of donut production, national shipping. And it started with 4 donuts in a pot on my stove in a cold apartment with my daughter.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's a great story of entrepreneurship and going after what I like to say, those messages, right? You obviously got some kind of sign or were led towards donuts, and donuts could possibly help you. And look at you now.
I know, it's pretty cool. I'm very grateful that I followed the craving. And that's the main theme of the first book that I wrote, that is all about really honoring your cravings, because your cravings are your North Star, basically, your guiding light to what your life's mission and purpose is.
So you had some, like you talked about diet, despair, food restriction, things like that. Can you talk, or you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So the first page in my book, it says, basically, I thought I wasn't allowed to have donuts. I thought I wasn't allowed to have whatever I want. I wasn't allowed to have sugar and sweetness. And, what Cosmopolitan magazine says, the one thing don't eat is donuts. So, diet despair, I just was really struggling, and I still do. Absolutely every single solitary day, I still struggle with not being a complete victim to the diet culture. It is so challenging for me. And I think probably a lot of people who, just our culture alone is constantly dictating what we're supposed to eat and how we're supposed to exercise and supposed to be perfect. And I've been very challenged and tormented by that for a very long time. I'm on Instagram and it says, be paleo, be keto, be vegan, be this, be an omnivore, be whatever. And it's so confusing. So that's the part of my story that I call the diet distress, despair, trying to figure out how to just be and not feel like it's always needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like I said, just to bring us back to your question is the first page of my book says, I started this business to give myself permission to eat donuts. And like I said, it's led to kind of a national business now. And I'm still working on it. So I'm not saying I've healed the problem, but it's my healing ground. It's my sacred healing ground is my donut business.
Do you feel like do you feel like you were giving yourself permission, just to have the donut, or permission to was there a deeper to live, or to a deeper, a broader?
Absolutely. And I'm fully aware of that. It's just a conduit to the deeper longings of the heart. And I know that. And so I write a lot about that in my book. It says, it's just a symbol. It's a metaphor for what do I really want in my life? We have a short life. We don't have forever. We have a short life, but a lot of us don't know how to just let go and let it be sweet and beautiful. And I mean, I'm in New England. We have a very puritanical outlook on pleasure and freedom. And we're very restricted culturally in this part of the country. I think Americans also are pretty drawn to shame and guilt, which doesn't help. But being in Maine, like I said, is a target area for just be perfect, follow the rules, go to college, eat this, be a vegetarian, So yes, to answer your question, it's symbolic of, can I just let my life be sweet, basically, and permissive. And so that's the answer.
Yeah. Well, I live in the Midwest. I grew up in, I think I may have told you this, but I was born in Michigan and then moved to Needham, Massachusetts, and lived there for 11 years. So love New England, love the beauty of it. We camped all throughout New England when I was growing up, and it's beautiful. I live in a Midwestern town. Well, I just moved a couple of months ago to a town just west of where we raised our family. And it's, similar to what you said. It's a town where we moved there because of the schools and because of the park districts, and the taxes are high and the expectations are high of, what your kids do. And, it's Tiger Nation, and it's, football and show choir and AP classes, and how many colleges are you going to apply to, and how much money are you going to get, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's really hard to, I found with, I have 4 children, and I found with all of them, it was just hard. The perspective looking at it now, they didn't all fit into that same path, that same mold. They haven't done the same thing. And so it's hard to figure out. I think it's hard for the kids to figure it out. And like you said, it's hard for us to figure out in this world of, social media, like that, oh yeah, you're supposed to be this and you shouldn't eat a donut. I mean, I'm in the wellness industry. I talk about healthy habits. And then I was with somebody the other day at like a chamber event. She's like, oh, I don't look at me. I'm eating the brownie. I'm like, I don't care what you do. Like,
I know.
And I eat plenty of brownies myself. And, if I found a good donut that I like, I would eat a good donut. But it's very hard to have that identity, your own individual identity, when the world is screaming at us
to be perfect.
Yeah, to be perfect and to be a certain way, and be it the way that we look, what we eat, what we do. It's difficult.
Yeah. And what you just said about the woman and the brownie, that's our culture. It's like, we're always apologizing. We're making excuses. I'll go to dinner with my friend and I do it and we all do it. Oh, I'm going to order a snack. I haven't eaten all day. Or, I'm just we're always making excuses to feed ourselves. And it's actually sad and amazing and just ingrained. And I am completely programmed that way too. My inner voice is absolutely terrible. It's abusive. It's horrible. It's militant. And I am on a mission to stop being at war with myself. And it's not easy. I pray about it. I think about it. I do mantras. I try to reverse the script in my head every single minute, every hour. It's just like, don't do that. Don't do that. You should do this. You should do that. It's like, I can't believe I can even survive myself. I'm sort of on a mission to, like I said, give people permission. I say to people, eat donuts. It's great. Have a sweet life. But yet I can barely do it. I don't even eat my own donuts because I'm so conditioned to diet. Which is, hard to admit, but feels good to admit. Yeah. So I think I've always said, show me one woman who doesn't have the inner voice about food and body image. And I'd love to meet her.
Right. I would too. Because with the daughter, I went through an eating disorder in college. My daughter, we walked alongside her for 9 years with her eating disorder. And she's strongly on this side of recovery, I'm happy to say. But she also, I remember a couple of years ago, her asking me, like, how do you deal with the body image thing, Mom? Like, I don't know if she said, does it ever go away or whatever, but how do you deal with that? Like,
I love this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's as much as I say, I was in my journaling practice this morning that was brief, but I did it. This book that I'm kind of using for journaling, the prompt was, what are some opposites in your life right now, or the opposites that you're living, or something like that. And it was, I'm confident, but I'm unsure. I'm fulfilled, but I'm lonely. I'm, beautiful, but I'm flawed. It's those things like back and forth. And I said to her, I hated to say it. I'm like, it doesn't really go away. I think it gets to the point of acceptance. And I believe it can go away, if you will, or it can be perhaps enveloped with a cloak of love and self-love.
Exactly. It's like I for my daughter's birthday, I painted her a little sign that says, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. That is, that's our message. It's like, oh, I'm going to hide out because I'm 10 pounds overweight and my skin's not perfect and I'm not lovable and I'm not fitting the mold here. And it's like, oh my God, how could any of us, nobody wants to live that way forever. All of a sudden life's over and you look back and say, whoa, I avoided love and pleasure and satisfaction because I didn't feel like I deserved it. So I wasn't perfect. And I've got a lot of friends who are happily married and don't have these exact insecurities about not feeling loved. But I'm sadly one of the ones who wasn't really trained well to feel like love can be imperfect and love can be wonderful despite being a quirky person that's not, just perfect. So
right.
At 49 years old, the new programming.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's training. I mean, we can choose different words to say, but I think some of it is, at least I say this because of my own healing journey that I've gone through. I wasn't modeled, it wasn't modeled to me that we could have these big dreams and that, and that you could do something different than what your mother, thought or what your parents thought. And it wasn't modeled that I could live outside of that box that box of the life that they created for us. It wasn't modeled that way. And so when I started to see it, when I started to experience it, I was very unsure and I, wanted to experience it, but I also was having this conflict. And so that was when, I wanted to go talk to my mom about it, but I didn't really have this great close relationship with her, to talk about those things. And I felt like if I said, hey, my friends want me to drink and I don't know what to do with those, I don't want to, or my husband, my boyfriend's pushing me to have sex and I am uncomfortable with that. Can we talk about that? Well, my mother would have said, well, why would you, you're not supposed to have sex, you're not supposed to drink. So there wasn't that, but it was this because I wasn't modeled it. And it was like, okay, and don't do it because that's what mom and dad say. And that's not any way to live and define what's good for you, And
Totally.
I was talking to my son the other day, one of my sons, and we were talking about just again, the thing that I've kind of realized through my own healing journey. And I said, I have 3 other siblings, love them, great people. But I said, I grew up feeling like I was different than them. And they were all here a couple of weeks ago. And I am still different than them. But I grew up thinking that there was something wrong with me because I was different and that I didn't belong there. And, but now 61 years later or whatever, now I'm 61, I'm different than them. And it's just the way God made me. And I'm okay with that. And I'm standing in the power of being okay, and being me. And then that's okay, even though I'm different than them. But I think it's that, you chose training as the word. I think it's like modeling. I wasn't modeled that. I wasn't.
Totally. That's what I mean. It's just, I didn't have the role model to say, this is just, just feel lovable. It's natural. No, I didn't have that role model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you had loss. So you talk about death and divorce and, loss of things and perhaps loss of that. I'm just picking this up, but I don't know, loss of an expectation of what you thought your life was going to be or what love was going to be or.
Well, speaking of eating disorders, what happened was my dad was my business partner. So he started helping me a few months into me starting the business. And he really, really helped. And he was like my right-hand man. And he helped me at 6 a.m. every single day. And just to help me get the business going. And then he died, pretty grueling, drawn out death of pancreatic cancer, which is a tough one. And so how I'm relating that to what we're talking about is losing that security and that safety net in my business and in my life as a father really sparked my sense of panic. And then, we cling to our life raft for whatever our coping mechanism is. And sometimes that's an eating disorder because you're trying to control things and you feel out of control and life feels uncertain and it doesn't feel safe. And I did not feel safe when my dad died. I felt like a dog on a raft, like floating in space in a business and in life with no dad and no business partner at that time for that period. And it was terrifying. And I think that also really triggered, like I'm saying, the eating issues because I want everything to feel okay. And I'll just cut out gluten and all of a sudden I'll be gluten free and I'll be fine.
Right.
Doesn't work. I really found that having faith in life and God and that was the answer, even though I was clinging to my life raft of fixing my diet to fix my heart and my sadness. And it still doesn't work. And I still try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm programmed to think if I just diet, I'll be okay. And it's just, I'm done.
It doesn't work yet. Brought to you by Gorski Wellness and the possibility of a better you. Are you feeling sluggish? Ready for a change? Need more energy? Up for a bigger challenge? I'm Moyra Gorski, retired nurse and wellness advocate. For over 22 years, I've been helping people live healthier lives while making small changes each and every day. Those small changes lead my clients to living a healthier lifestyle with markedly better health. As a brand ambassador for the Shaklee Corporation, the most clinically proven wellness company in the world, I guide my clients to make healthier choices each day with their food, supplements, skincare, workouts, and mindset. They say getting started is half the battle. Let's make healthy happen together. If you're ready for simple, natural, sustainable solutions to feeling and looking your best, let's connect. You'll find a link in the show notes or reach out to me at moyragorski.com. Here's to a better you. Yeah. But, again, I've had lots of conversations on this podcast about, that thing, people that have struggled with eating disorders, addictions, alcohol, drugs, shopping, busyness, and things like that. And it's never about the food, the alcohol, the drugs.
Your
It's not
addiction.
about that.
Yep.
It's what's underneath that. Like you said, you were trying to fix your diet so you could fix your heart.
Yep.
So it's that, underlying thing. And yeah, it doesn't go away. And, I commend you for being on this journey and being vulnerable to talk about that. And that it's like, yeah, there's no end of the journey. Perhaps that's when we die. But, it always is that day to day, what you're choosing, what you're choosing to do. And I love to get to know people that are on a healing journey. I'm on that myself. I know that I've healed past a couple of years ago, but then there's more onions to peel back, and there's more underneath.
Yeah.
Underneath that. Yeah.
And that can be discouraging. That's a good way to put it. We think, God, can I just arrive at the finish line? Please. And that's clearly not realistic. Where, done when you're dead and gone, that's when this phase is over. But while you're here, and it gets frustrating and discouraging, but you're right. It is just an endless onion.
Yeah. Well, and I love the fact that you're, just that the donuts are a message to say, like, enjoy the sweetness. Again, it sounded like you had some, again, your father died suddenly and it was a moment. People have those moments. They have their wake up calls. They have things that happen that all of a sudden they're looking at things perhaps a little differently in life.
Yep. It really does. It just it shakes the boat and shakes. I definitely believe in there are no mistakes. We go through the pain that we need to grow, heal, and evolve. It seems pretty clear at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, my life was shaken up last year, with a cancer diagnosis, and, I'm the healthy wellness gal for 25 some years. And I got cancer. Like, that shook my world to the core. But it's given me this, it's given me this different outlook on life, and an outlook on, and, we sold our big house and now we live in this little cottage, which is just so darling. I love it. But it's like, had me look at things differently, that attachment to things. I don't care about those things in the house. It was time to get rid of them. It was time to downsize that. So maybe we could go live a little bit. So maybe we could go travel. Maybe we could go do some other things. And like you said, enjoy the sweetness of life, because all of a sudden, I was celebrating 60 in September and all about, hey, I'm 60. I feel great. And with my friends and my family. And then boom, I got a little gut punch, a big gut punch.
Yeah.
So it gives you a different perspective on life. And I love, again, what you're doing is providing that to people to say, hey, have a donut, enjoy. This is sweet. You can savor it. And then you can go on and, do the rest of your day. But it's okay to, to enjoy the sweetness of life.
That's it. That's exactly like the very short summary of what my book is just a constant practice of enjoying life. It's literally a constant practice to remove the voice that says you shouldn't, you want too much, you're asking too much, you're costing too much, just everything's too much. So that's my mission in life, is just to reverse that message and to share it with others and myself. Life is sweet, and it's short and sweet. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
Now, so tell me about the donut business. Did you how'd you pick the name? Do you have just tell us about it.
Yeah. It was kind of a divine intervention. So I went through divorce. I worked at a pizza place as a bartender, and the owner and he was a kind of a genius business person. And we talked a lot, and I said, I just crave donuts all the time. And he and I would go out and try donuts and eat, I would say, let's go find a good donut. And I just really couldn't find something that I wanted back 13 years ago. It was Dunkin' Donuts pretty much or nothing else. Or frozen in a grocery store, which is few and far between. So long story, I just revealed to him and talked to him a lot about how I was craving a donut. Long story, we're sitting out and he says, you need to open a donut shop and you need to use Maine potatoes and you should call it the Holy Donut because it's a funny pun. And in that moment, I just went, oh my God, I just got a message from above, the divine. And the next day, I went to Barnes and Noble and flipped through cookbooks. I was a single mom with no money and I just didn't even want to buy the book. I just started scribbling recipes. And I went home and started practicing making donuts in a pot on my stove with a flimsy thermometer for months. And I just practiced and practiced. And then I came on one recipe finally with the potatoes that he had mentioned, mashed potato. And I was like, well, Maine is known for blueberries, potatoes, and lobsters. So it's kind of the holy grail of the perfect Maine product. So I made a mashed potato donut and I tasted it. I said, OMG, this is so ridiculously good. And I invited over my neighbors and my dad. I said, you got to try this. Get over here. People tried it. And we said, this is sellable. This is a product. So I, started making them 4 at a time in my stove and took a couple down to my local coffee shop in my neighborhood and said, will you sell these for $5 a dozen? And she said, sure. And that was like the moment of my life changing.
Wow.
And they started flying off the shelves and I started going from store to store and asking people to sell my product wholesale. And I made no money. I just was doing it like the voice of a mission from God. And then I went to Whole Foods within a couple of weeks and I said, will you sell my donuts? And they said, yes. And I screamed and I said, oh my God. And I just hit the ground running from there. And my dream was to open up a little tiny shop and be open for 5 days a week and put my kid through college and work every day and make donuts for 5 days. And it just evolved rapidly to lines out the door. And it was my passion that I was selling. Donuts are great, but I was just so into it and so passionate and so crazy about flavors and making people happy. And making myself happy. And next thing you know, my family jumped in, my brother-in-law jumped in, and my sister and my dad and my mom and my dad had been helping. And we just took it to the next level. And over the past 12 years, I've opened 4 more shops. Now we have 5 and really no end in sight.
Well, I think when I first connected with you, wasn't it just at the point that now you can ship them?
So we just launched national shipping. So anyone can go on our website, order a dozen and get it to your door. Guaranteed this, we put it on, we freeze them, flash freeze and put them on ice. So when you get them, they're just about thawed out and just about perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's exciting.
It is. I love it. I love it. And I never thought I wanted to go big, but then I had a realization that, if we're doing sweetness, why not do more sweetness? The more, the better.
Right. Yep. Because you can just spread that sweetness around to everybody because all your shops now are just in Maine primarily, right where you're at.
I'm in the Portland area and it's a very foodie town. People love local. We're just packed with local, very passionate food people. We don't really have chain restaurants in town. It's just
nice.
Everyone's heard a story. So there's plenty more for your podcast.
Right.
Lots of good stories behind the restaurants here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and those are always the heartwarming ones. It's when my husband and I travel and, if we drive someplace and through the small towns, like I want to stop at the coffee shop or the family restaurant, the family diner and hear the story and have the great piece of pie or the great donut, things
Totally.
like that.
Yep.
It's the best fruit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just someone's heart and soul and passion. And sometimes when I even taste my own donuts, this sounds maybe crazy, but I get emotional. Mm-hmm. I can taste my own love in my own product. I can literally taste it.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it blows me away because like I said, I've got such issues. I don't eat my own donuts that often. But when I do, I go, oh, wow, now I get it. I forgot.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
I don't think it's crazy. And I am in the midst of, my daughter gave me this idea, and I am in the midst of creating a cookbook because I love to cook. And my mom taught me to cook. She wasn't this great extravagant cook. She's English. She was English. So it was kind of, bland cooking, but she taught me to be comfortable in the kitchen, to cook and to bake. She was a great baker. And it was always fresh cookies and cakes and coffee cakes and things like that. And so she gave me the idea because, I did with my cancer diagnosis last year, and I decided to make some changes in what I eat. And so I still have that sweet tooth. So I've been like looking around and trying to find, sweet treats that don't have the refined sugar in it, and making things with dates and cashews. And I love it. We found some great things. She goes, you should make a cookbook. People would buy it. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And then one weekend I sat down with ChatGPT and started to kind of put some things down, my ideas. And I love it. It got me excited, but also not to just be a cookbook, but kind of be this, like, I'm going to share my story in amongst the chapters of, is the things that, about the eating disorder and about the cancer and about, again, my mother, and about different things in my life. It's still coming together. It's my project for 2025. But I say that because, again, when we are passionate about things, we should follow them and do them. And they'll buy your things when they feel your passion, in there for sure. But I also want to create it because people don't, they don't know how to cook. Oh, some of them, I help people. I have a wellness business. I help people, create healthy habits so that they can live a long and prosperous life. But some people just don't. They're like, I couldn't cook that. I don't know how to do that. I'm like, but it can be simple, it can be really extravagant too. But I'm hoping that I can show people that, like, here are some, you can plan your meals and throw some chicken in the crock pot with some stewed tomatoes and like leave for the day. You come back to like chicken cacciatore, like, it doesn't have to be super, but I, I don't know. I just love the idea of sharing passions of food with others, because not only did my mom teach me to cook, and maybe you have this, I can't wait to try your donuts. And I, wonder what the atmosphere is there. I mean, my mom taught me to cook, but she also taught me the value of sitting around a table, is to putting the food in front of people and gathering people around. That's the magic. That's the beautiful thing.
totally, completely. That's called, the connection. And doesn't matter what political side you're on. If there's a chocolate cake in front of you, everyone's going to love it. And
right.
It connects people and it brings people together. And I say, in my particular experience, it gives you a 5-minute break from the drudgery of life. You come into my shop, it gives you 5 minutes. It smells like cinnamon and coffee and sugar, and and you're going to go back out and get in your car and go to work. But at least you got that few minutes to get a break and a little hit of sweetness. And that's my mission in my business, is just to kind of give someone a dose of hope and a break. Life's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It shouldn't be that hard, but it is sometimes. And like I said, my business, I just really started to give myself hope, to give others hope, to bring back memories. Everybody says, this reminds me of my grandmother. I hear that nonstop. That particular old world recipe that I have with the milk and the buttermilk and the eggs, it's all from scratch. Unbleached flour, and we don't use any junk in our donuts, and no fake colors and no fake anything. And people constantly say, I don't eat donuts, but I love yours because they remind me of my grandmother. And like I said, that is such a high compliment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we wrap up our conversation, which has been great, I really appreciate you having this conversation today. Any last words or things that you'd like my audience to hear, or, things that you've really learned that you feel like would be a good way to close up today?
Well, obviously I want to say, hey, national shipping, go ahead, try our stuff. You can get the main experience anywhere nowadays. But no, I'm basically, to summarize, I'm extremely grateful. I always like to remind people that following your heart is your money, basically. And so I really value cravings and honoring yourself and your heart and your longings. And as hard as it is to really let ourselves have it all, this business has taught me that when you honor what you're longing for, it pays off. And you're worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Want a donut? Get it. You deserve it. Life isn't easy. If you need a little sweetness, please do it. And we need it. It's like oxygen. We all deserve food, sunlight, shelter, and comfort and pleasure and enjoyment. And that's my closing statement.
Yeah. It's great. No, it's great. And, I'll always remember that. Like, just give yourself 5 minutes of sweetness. That can be a donut. That can be going outside and throwing the ball around with your dog. It can be turning music on. It can be dancing around. It can be whatever it is. But, we all need to give ourselves permission to have that 5 minutes of sweetness in our life. So,
yep, that's it. That's the mission statement right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Leigh. You will find everybody, who's listening will find everything in the show notes where they can order some donuts from Holy Donut, order your book and things like that. But thank you. And just keep spreading the sweetness around. I mean, the world needs it. Yeah. We aren't talking politics today, but today is the day after the election. And there's, we need to keep spreading sweetness around, like you said, regardless of our affiliations and things like that. We all need love. We all need sweetness. Amen. And, I commend you for doing what you're doing. And I love that Jen has introduced us. So thank you.
Yeah, so nice to meet you, chat, and hope to meet up again.
Yeah. Yep. So thanks for listening, everybody. Please share this with your friends, again, who need a little bit of sweetness. It's all about your journey, the journey to joy. And, your journey can include some donuts. So go out and make it a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Hey there, ready to live a more joyful life? Considering connecting with someone who can help you? If so, I'd like to be that person. I offer a free consultation where we determine where the chaos is in your life and how you can learn to bring more joy each and every day. Visit my website, moyragorski.com, or simply email me, moyra@moyragorski.com, with more joy in the subject line. I look forward to connecting, and I'm here to say there will always be some chaos, which requires a little juggling, but you can find joy and live your life intentionally filled with that joy. Let me help you on your journey to joy, and that's joy, the journey of you.